And we go a little something like this. Hit it.
Good evening and welcome to the September 13th meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Council members: Friedman.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Najarian. Sinanian.
Here.
Mayor Devine.
Here. Next item is the flag salute.
Next item on the agenda is a flag salute, followed by the invocation.
Thank you.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for this evening's invocation. This past Sunday, our nation marked the anniversary of the attacks of September 11th, 2001. And as we all reflect on this important date and what we lost, we renewed our commitment to those values which make us proud to call ourselves Americans. Let us reflect on all that we have been given as citizens and residents of this bountiful, prosperous land, and actively seek ways to give back and help those less fortunate, not only here at home, but throughout our land and around the world. For in the words of President John F. Kennedy, quote, "Of those to whom much is given, much is required." May our council and community be guided by these principles. And as always, let us pray for our brave men and women in our armed forces, our first responders and public safety personnel, and all who put their lives at risk to keep us safe. Amen.
Amen.
And the next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is a report of the city clerk. The agenda for the September 13, 2016 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Friday, September 9, 2016 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. And Madam Mayor, if I may, in terms of our housekeeping, to note that the special meeting of the Glendale City Council, which was agendized for this afternoon regarding the Measure M potential sales tax revenue, there was a motion to note and file Measure M potential news sales tax revenue report. That meeting will be moved to next week because of the other meetings that went over.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kasakian.
The next item is agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, September 20th, 2016.
Beers?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, for the Glendale Housing Authority, we have no business agenda items. We do have a special meeting of the Glendale City Council, Director of Community Development. This is regarding a project update, citywide pedestrian plan, citywide safety education initiative, and non-infrastructure safe routes to schools program. We also have a joint meeting of the City Council and the Housing Authority, Director of Community Development. This is the updates to the City of Glendale and Glendale Housing Authority procedures for the implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, of 1970 as amended, and the guidelines as amended, and updates to the Glendale Municipal Code. And that is at 3 p.m. next week. For the Glendale City Council meeting to commence at 6 p.m. We have a number of consent items. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, amendment to existing purchase order with San Joaquin Chemicals, Inc. for the supply contract of proprietary water treatment chemicals. This is for the Grayson Power Plant. Director of Public Works and Library Arts and Culture, this is an amendment to the purchase order service authorization with National Library Relocations, Inc. for moving library materials during the Central Library renovation. Interim Director of Community Services and Parks. This is an award of contract for catering services for the Elderly Nutrition Program. And lastly, on consent is General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is the Energy Risk Management Policy. We have a number of action items. Chief Information Officer, this is regarding the continuation of the PeopleSoft database and application maintenance support agreements with Right Mind Enterprises and Clark Consulting Services. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, this is executing an agreement with Regulus Group. This is for lockbox remittance processing services. Interim Director of Community Services and Parks, this is regarding the Duke Major Nature Education Center request for proposals. This is Phase 4, Part 3. And the last two items are City Attorney regarding campaign finance ordinance and City Attorney regarding the ordinance relating to mobile billboard advertising displays. And lastly, we do have a hearing, Director of Community Development. This is amending Chapter 8.06 of the Glendale Municipal Code to adopt a conforming ordinance to regulate mobile food facilities relating to cleanliness, inspections, and grading. And that concludes my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item, please.
Following on item number 4 on this agenda are the consent items, including minutes following a routine and may be acted upon by one motion. A member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Thank you.
I'd like to pull item 4B.
Okay, thank you. Any others?
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Members Friedman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian, Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Would you please read item 4B into the...
4B is Director of Public Works regarding Railroad Partial Crossing Quiet Zone Project. B1 is resolution authorizing city manager as designee to execute amendments to the construction and maintenance agreements with Southern California Regional Rail Authority, SCRRA, for the Flower Street, Grandview Avenue, and Sonora Avenue crossings to incorporate the pedestrian backflashes into the railroad crossing quiet zone improvements. 2 is a resolution of appropriation to appropriate $23,040 from general fund undesignated fund balance to Public Works, Traffic Engineering, Contractual Services for paying SCRRA the annual railroad exit gate maintenance and testing fee for fiscal year 2016-17.
So the
Thank
reason
you.
I wanted to pull this was because having a quiet zone in the San Fernando corridor is very important to a lot of our residents. And a lot of our residents don't know that we've been working for many years to do the necessary physical upgrades to that area to get a quiet zone approved so that we can bring some peace to the people who live in Pelanconi and along the railroad tracks and not have horns blaring all night. So I thought it was worth just pulling this item to show people that we continue to move towards that, and also to express my hope that the Glendale News Press will pick this up and do a little story, because regularly, I'd say every few weeks, I get an email from someone saying, hey, when can we ever get maybe a quiet zone so we don't have to have the horns? So our residents are not always aware that we've been putting quite a lot of money into this project. So I just wanted to pull this to make that clear. And also, it will make the crossing safer to have the pedestrian back flashes. So that's something that will also be a great benefit to people who are trying to cross the tracks, particularly at night. So with that, I'll move the item.
Well, I just want to make one more comment. First of all, I want to give kudos to Mr. Galanian, because I know he's been working with everyone on this project for 10 years. 10 years, and that is has been a yeoman's job. This will be the first in the county, the first quiet zone in the county. So kudos to that as well, and I know the people in Pelanconi will be very happy, as I think will I, because I'm hearing that blaring even louder recently. So I'm anxious to see what sort of difference this makes. So we have a motion for the item.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Council members Friedman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian, Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes, thank you. And our next item, consent item.
Next item on the agenda is the City Council and staff comments, item 5.
Do you have any comments? Ms.
Two
Friedman?
quick comments.
Sure.
Several of us participated on Sunday at the Crescenta Valley Motorcade remembering 9/11. And I just want to congratulate everyone who participated in the event. Every year that I've gone, they've had more and more people, more and more turnout, a bigger route, more schools included, and the community really came out to recognize that event, and it certainly serves as a way of educating the young people in the community. So I want to congratulate them. And secondly, I wanted to see if anybody would second a proposal for us to expand our existing ordinance banning the retail sale of dogs and cats to include rabbits as another mammal that is being purchased on a whim, sometimes around Easter, and then dumped at the shelters, a few months later, often to be euthanized. So I wanted to introduce that and see if anyone's interested in seconding that.
I'll second that. I hear a lot about that sort of thing going on. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Sinanian, Mr. Garpetian.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I also participated in the motorcade of 9/11. It was bigger than last year, and it's getting bigger, and it's a great event. I guess the students, the children involved, and they bring them out, they line up, and the parade goes by, and it's a kind of an awareness and never forget, basically, event. I'd also like to thank John Sizemore for letting us ride in his beautiful 64 convertible Mustang. It was a great car, and he's a really gentleman. Usually I don't talk about the events that I attend because there's too many of them, but tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock there is an event which is called Not on Our Watch in Pasadena on the corner of Orange Grove and Colorado. And this is an event that will bring awareness and compassion to those veterans who are currently suffering, and also it will provide them with an outlet to speak out their hardships and seek comfort. And Mayor Devine is going to be there tomorrow to make a speech, and after that there will be each hour there will be a veteran on watch on the bridge of Colorado Bridge, which was at the highest suicide rate, so as veterans go, I think, in the nation. So we'll be there tomorrow, and we'll show up. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, if I may, thank you. So tomorrow we're launching our first ever Glendale Tech Week, and we will have a large number of events lined up one after the other tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. And I want to encourage everyone to attend as many of those as you can. We'll launch the event, I think symbolically in many ways, at the Verdugo Job Center, because at the end of the day, yes, technology is good in of itself, but we are looking for the 21st century economy, and we do want to create high-paying jobs, and that's one of the main motivators for the Glendale Tech Week, and also the tech initiative that we've undertaken, and I have championed, and will hopefully be seeing bear fruit in the near future. So if you have any need for information about the specific events, they should go to our website, and it'll all be available there. There are too many events for me to list tomorrow. I think there's 8 or 9 events from 9 a.m. all the way down to late evening. And I also want to mention that last week I believe two of my colleagues attended the Glendale Beautiful annual dinner, which was very nice, and good tradition, good people, trying to keep Glendale beautiful.
Thank you. I just briefly, I attended the parade as well, and as a former educator, nothing brings a larger smile to my face than to see young ones waving flags and jumping about. Just happy to see a parade. But the important thing is that these kids were not even born. Most of them were not even born when 9/11 happened 15 years ago. So it's a great teaching moment at our schools, and I'm proud of everybody that participated. Tomorrow, Not on My Watch, it is to bring awareness of the effects of PTSD on our vets. I attended the Korean Festival on Saturday or Sunday, and there were vets there from the Korean War, from the World War II. It was quite inspiring to see these men and women of our armed forces. So if you want to walk the bridge for a couple of hours, come on over tomorrow morning and sign up. It's quite an emotional event. Thank you. Next item.
Madam Mayor, the next item on the agenda is the community event announcement portion. This is a portion for 3-minute community event announcements, followed by 3-minute general public comments. There are orange cards available at the rear of the chambers for anyone wishing to forgo their full 5 minutes at the end of the meeting to instead address the council for a 3-minute period.
Thank you. We'll start with Christina Ashtian.
Good evening, Mayor Devine and honorable council members. My name is Dr. Christina Ashtian, and we are here on behalf of the Armenian Bone Marrow Donor Registry. Our organization's mission is to save lives by recruiting and providing matched unrelated donors for bone marrow or stem cell transplantation to all Armenian and non-Armenian patients worldwide who are suffering from leukemia and other life-threatening blood-related illnesses. Our presence here today is to share with you share with you and our community 2 of our upcoming events. Our first one, as you can see, the flyer will be posted, is our first annual Cancer Awareness Symposium that's going to be held on September 17th at St. Gregory's Armenian Catholic Church at the hall located at the church. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and is free and open to the public. We have a great lineup of experts in the field of commonly occurring cancers, including leukemia, lymphomas, breast, colon, plus alternatives and targeted approaches to identifying and treating subtypes of cancers, preventative measures, as well as resources available to the public. The aim of the symposium is to educate and empower the public regarding the various cancers, and lectures are prepared with the general public in mind. There will be also a Q&A sessions where the public will be able to ask questions to the physicians involved, to the physicians and experts that you see listed on the flyer. And we would also like to thank them for donating their time and their expertise to the event. Our second event is our annual walkathon, called Walk of Life. It's going to be held on October 1st, on Saturday, October 1st, and we would like to have any and all community members take part in this event. It will start and loop back here at the Glendale City Building, starting at 9 a.m. Registration is at 9 a.m. and the opening ceremonies is at 9:30. The walk starts at 10. And like I said, it starts here and it also loops back to the Glendale City. There will be music, food, and celebration. The annual Walk of Life is how we promote our ABMDR's mission to the community and to spread the word about our services and recruit potential donors. So we encourage all of you and all of our community members to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I just say one thing.
Yes, Councilmember.
Glad to see you here. You're one of my absolute favorite groups. I feel a real connection to your mission. One of my friends died waiting for a bone marrow transplant. She was a young mother of 2 in her 30s, and she was a member of an ethnic minority, and because of that, the donor pool was limited, and she never found a match in time to have her stem cell transplant. Just giving a little bit of blood, you can become someone who saves a life. You give that blood, and if you're lucky enough to be matched, and I say lucky enough because how often do you get the opportunity to save someone's life? Then you could save a life, and it's easy and it's safe. And I just want to urge every single person to go and give blood and try to be out there as a potential match for someone. Thank you for what you're doing.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Okay, Tomig Alexanian. Tomig.
Okay. Good evening, honorable council members, staff. Today, on behalf of Armenian Society of Los Angeles, we are here to make an announcement for a very exciting grand concert. And with us, I have Mr. Peter Darakchian, Vice Chair of the Executive Committee, and also Maestro Mikhail Avedisian, who has been with the Society over 15 years. So please, let's observe a little bit of who we are talking about. This is the world's most prominent violin player these days, Sergei Khachaturian. Do we have a sound?
To ensure that the sound is up.
And after this, Mr. Peter Darakchian will make his brief presentation.
Thank you. I would like to briefly introduce you to the virtuoso violinist, Sergei Khachaturian. Born in Yerevan, Armenia, Sergei Khachaturian won first prize at the 8th International Jean Sibelius competition in Helsinki in 2000, becoming the youngest ever winner in the history of the competition. In 2005, he claimed first prize at the Queen Elizabeth competition in Brussels. In recent seasons, Sergei has performed with the Swedish Radio Symphony, Mariinsky Orchestra, and Orchestre de Paris. He has also collaborated with the London Symphony, the London Philharmonic, Sydney Symphony, and Melbourne Symphony. Sergei's most recent appearance in the U.S. was with the Seattle Symphony and the Washington National Symphony Orchestra. He has also visited the New York Philharmonic, Boston Symphony, Philadelphia Orchestra, Cleveland Orchestra, and San Francisco Symphony. At the beginning of 2014-15 season, Sergei performed the Beethoven Violin Concerto at the Lucerne Festival with the Vienna Philharmonic. At the latest recipient, and he is the latest recipient of the Credit Suisse Young Artist Award. To accompany Sergei Khachaturian, we have put together a hand-selected symphony orchestra consisting of musicians from various Southern California orchestra. The maestro doesn't really need introduction, but if you give me 30 seconds, I'll go real quick. Starting in 1991, Michael Avedisian regularly performed with the National Academy Theater of Opera and Ballet Orchestra, National Radio Symphony Orchestra, Yerevan State Symphony Orchestra, and the Armenian State Philharmonic Orchestra. In 1994, he became the principal conductor of Yerevan State Symphony Orchestra, and in 1997, he was appointed the music director of the principal conductor of the Armenian State Philharmonic Orchestra. In 1996, Michael Avedisian was invited to perform with the USSR State Symphony Orchestra. Michael Avedisian taught opera, symphony conducting, and Komitas Yerevan State Conservatory. Currently, Michael Avedisian is teaching composition and conducting International Law School of Music in Glendale. And at the same time, he is the conductor of Armenian Society of Los Angeles Choir. Michael Avedisian is the past conductor of the New Valley Symphony Orchestra, the Glendale Philharmonic Orchestra, and numerous freelance orchestras in Southern California. At this time, it gives me great pleasure, but the introduction is not necessary. Please, let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And to mention that the
I have left cards.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
the concert is on Sunday, October
the 2nd.
at 7:30 p.m., the Ambassador Auditorium on South St. John Avenue in Pasadena.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to say that the tickets are going very fast, so anyone wants to attend, please let us know, because the last day, if you come and then the tickets are all sold, I will be very disappointed and uncomfortable not being able to provide you with more tickets. Thank you.
I'll just say that I've had the privilege of hearing Sergei Khachaturian twice this year already, and I'll be hearing him again for the third time on October 2nd.
Your place, you already told me, is reserved.
Thank you.
And for your guest also.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much again.
I'm sure Mr. Garpetian is already has confirmed that he's coming.
There's no need to.
Thank you. You're all there. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam Mogadam.
Hello, and thank you very much for your time accepting me today. I have a 50-second ad that would describe...
Chile signed the new United Nations Climate Change Agreement today. It's the first of its kind. Critics claim the administration is bypassing Congress by calling it an agreement rather than a treaty, which would require congressional approval.
An upheaval, a massive change is required right now, one that leads to a new collective consciousness, a new collective evolution of the human race, inspired and enabled by a sense of urgency from all of you. You are the last best hope of Earth.
Our beautiful, generous Mother Nature is the only rescuer of our children's lives. My love, my baby, live green, sparkle. We are the last best hope of Earth. Protect the Mother Nature. Buy live Christmas trees. Live green and sparkle.us. actually brought this to make it very short, that everybody, all of us, we know that on April 22nd, 2016, just the past April, 171 countries, they signed a treaty they all agreed upon preservation of the nature. And we have to start it now. So last Christmas, when I was in Glendale and I was driving all over, and I saw these cut Christmas trees on the streets here and there, and I started shooting. And then being in preservation and environmental support for the past 15 years, then I thought this is really the time to let the people know that we can have the live Christmas trees in a very tiny little pots of 3 to 5 gallon, and I can provide that to the public. And I would like your support to do it this Christmas. And I have a nursery which actually in 2014 helped Glendale, City of Glendale, by donating a lot of trees, and you actually provided a piece of land in somewhere in Verdugo Valley, and they planted all those trees there, and they are still there. So we want to encourage people. We want to educate, especially our children, as you saw in that DVD, that unless we take action right now, they're not going to really appreciate us as our grandparents or ancestors later on. So we have this obligation. If you would agree with me, I would really appreciate that. I would do it all on my own anyways, but I think I want this credit for the City of Glendale to be number one, really taking action this Christmas, this year, towards that. And I would like, can I continue?
Your time is actually up.
Okay.
Do you have an email address or an information that you would, is your service free to the public?
This is free, except the price of the Christmas trees, which are like any other Christmas trees. It's just that we would encourage them to take it in a little pot, which has roller underneath, and then they can keep it, or we can go take it and donate it to the City of Glendale. And if the city provides us with a little park, we plant it there. Otherwise, we donate it to the city.
If you give your information to, can you state your name for us?
Yes, absolutely. Mariam Mogadam.
And if you'll give your information to the city clerk, we'll put that possibly on our website. Okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Margaret Hammond, followed by Rondi Warner.
Hey, my name is Margaret Hammond. Good afternoon, evening now, Mayor and members of the council and staff. I'm here really, and you've already spoke about it, the veterans that are having the event, and it will be September the 14th through the 17th. The opening ceremony is tomorrow, and the closing ceremony is on Saturday from 10 to 11. Tomorrow, it's again, the opening is from 10 to 11. I've been involved with this group, and we have them right here in Glendale at 540 West Broadway, Glendale. And you can go there, the veterans go there, that they can get clothing. If you take them clothing, they're glad if you can donate clothing to them. You know, socks, underwear. People don't realize they really need things like that. A lot of the veterans are out of work and need, help and whatnot, and are having a hard time. In particular, because of the suicide rate, it's really sad. But if you have things and you want to take them to that address, they're very happy. The veterans are there, and as they told me when I took things, they said anything they have left over, they take to a veterans place downtown LA. And then they are very grateful for any financial support that you can give them. I have envelopes that I've been doing it for years, so I feel, and I know the person that's the fundraiser is Lisa. Her father was the mayor of Raggio of Glendale, and she is the fundraiser and involved with this. So that's why I feel that it's a good foundation or a good place to go to help them, and they're very grateful for that. The other thing I want to speak about, and I spoke about it this afternoon, was about the city of Glendale, the meeting you're going to have, the community meeting at the Pacific Community Center, the Sycamore Room, and that's at 501 South Pacific. Now that date is September the 22nd at 7 o'clock. I feel very strongly this isn't just for citizens of South Glendale or North Glendale, it's for all residents to attend the community meeting, and I think it's very important to get that news out. Thank you very much.
That's a meeting for the South Glendale Community Plan, correct?
No, it isn't. No, this says for all residents.
No,
it
but
doesn't
I mean
specify.
Yeah, you're right, but it's concerning the South Glendale Community Plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you, Margaret. Thank you. Rondi Warner?
Hello, I'm Rondi Werner, president of the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association and resident of Glendale for over 30 years. I wanted to thank Council for directing staff to reconvene the streamlining task force so that they can revisit the results of the streamlining process. My only concern is that we did already put the South Glendale plan on hold once while we looked for ways to streamline the planning process, and I hope that we will not again be put on hold while we look for ways to speed up the process in a way that usually favors developers. So we'd like some assurance that that won't happen to us again, because the plan is already almost 4 years overdue. It just makes sense to have a plan in place before a process is streamlined. Also, I just wanted to clarify before I mentioned that there were projects that were not listed in the report earlier today on streamlining. The ones that I had mentioned in my letter earlier were not in the report. I think Mr. Najarian was confused when he saw a list of addresses, but those were not the addresses I was looking at. Those were only the ones that were part of the removal of the CUP process, and not the ones that we're allowing people to double the square footage of their homes or add a whole second home next to their first home, or also the units up to 5 or actually up to 6 unit apartment buildings or condos. And I'm also very concerned that the policy seems to favor these 5 to 6 unit multifamily units by not requiring design review, whereas a single-family home does have to require design review. It seems counterintuitive. It seems to me that a single-family home is far less impactful to a street than a 6-unit apartment building or condo. So that, of all the streamlining measures, that was the one that had bothered me the most when I served on that task force, and the one that still continues to bother me today. And also when Adams Hill was singled out for special zoning, we feel that that has a lot to do with some of the very impactful projects that Mr. Kiesel was the planning person for, and those he was not able to make those findings because of the current zoning codes, and so we think that he's seeking to undermine those zoning codes so that it will be easier for those projects and projects like them to be put through in the future, such as the one on Vista Superba, which was the 77% slope. So that is why we're very concerned, and that got our attention. We're not talking about remodels here or someone who wants to add another bathroom, and we don't care about alcohol permits or any of that. We're just cared mostly about new development. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
I just want to be sure that we're all clear that for staff more than anybody, that when the task force goes back and looks, to me, the goal is not to try to speed it up for developers, but to review it and make sure we haven't gone too far with some of the speeding up that we did. So I want to make it clear that that should be under the task force.
That's what we were hoping for,
well.
because we do feel like there are things that I think got a lot of control.
Okay. And hopefully you'll continue to serve on that task force so that all of your concerns and issues.
You betcha.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the oral communication, or community announcements. So next item.
Next item on the agenda is the City Treasurer regarding City of Glendale's investment policy. 8A1 is a resolution adopting the city investment policy for fiscal year 2016-17. B is also City Treasurer regarding City Treasurer's annual review of the city portfolio. B1 is the motion accepting report for fiscal year ending on June 30th, 2016.
Shall I just go right to Mr. Manukian?
The man who put the fun in fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. It has been a year since I've been here last. It seems like yesterday. We are not recommending any changes to the portfolio policy at this time. We are presenting the investment portfolio review as of June 30, 2016. Let me see if... Okay. Sorry. Okay, our investment philosophy and objectives are our general investment policies will be guided by the prudent person rule. As usual, this is a refresher, and I review this every year. And we shall exercise judgment and care under the circumstances then prevailing, that persons of prudence, discretion, and intelligence exercise in the management of their own affairs. Our investment objectives are preservation of principal, ensuring liquidity, and securing yield. Risk is not tolerated, and the rate of return should at least meet the annual total return of the 3-month Treasury bill. This chart indicates the credit relates to preservation of principal, indicates the ratings for our portfolio over the past 4 years. And as you can see, the last column is the most current column. We have increased the quality in all of our investments. As you can see from 2013 to 2014, the last column on the left, the AAA papers, we have increased. In 2013, we had virtually no AAA paper. Currently, we have quite a few. We have also increased the AA, high-grade investment quality as well, therefore preserving the principal for our portfolio. Ensuring liquidity, as you can see in this chart, 50% of our assets have a maturity date of less than a year. Half of that is liquid funds that we can access within a couple of days. The rest are short-term investment securities in the form of commercial paper and CDs, negotiable CDs. And lowest on our priority list is the yield to maturity yield for the investments that we have. This chart indicates the 3-month T-bills, the 2-year and the 5-year T-bills, as well as the rate for the city's portfolio. Our monthly average yield for the city exceeds the annual total return for the 3-month treasury bill, which meets the city's investment objectives. And if I could point out that our portfolio exceeds the 2-year T-bills and the 5-year T-bills at this point, at 130. And this is the quarterly maturity yield for the past 4 years, and the important indicator here is a 5-year Treasury bill. As you can see, the interest rate market is very volatile, but our portfolio is very stable. It's the purple line or the blue line. It's very stable. It's on its way up. The year-end key statistics from June 2013, when I started, to June 2016, our portfolio increased from $373 million to $584 million. Our interest earnings have increased from 2.3 to 5.4. The rate of return on our investments has increased from 70 basis points to 130 basis points. And our weighted average maturity has decreased, actually, which is a good thing, 22 months to 19 to 20 months. I would also like to indicate, because there were questions in the past saying that, indicating that the interest earnings could have increased because the portfolio has increased. If the portfolio had remained at $373 million, our interest earnings would have still, at these yields, would have still increased by over $2 million. Asset allocation, this is the prior year, and I want to point out the federal agency callable is at 20.87%. This is 2015, and LAIF at approximately 23% of our portfolio. In the current year, The federal agencies were called, a number of them were called, and LAIF has decreased to 11.48%, and federal agencies have decreased to 6%. We have invested in commercial papers and negotiable CDs because the rates that we were able to invest in were more lucrative than they were in LAIF. So we had invested in short-term securities, 6 months, 7 months, at better rates than we were getting it with LAIF. These are the total city's investment and cash, 583, and cash on hand at $9 million. Total investments in cash for the city, $592 million. And these are all the portfolios that the city currently has: the city, Glendale Redevelopment Agency, successor agency, and the water and electric revenue bonds for a total of 718, an increase from 2015 of from 577 to $718 million. That is my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Does this mean we're keeping him on?
He's a keeper.
He's a keeper?
He's a keeper.
All right.
That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Any comments from?
I did want to ask about the cash on hand, just for my own edification. Yeah. Is that just cash that's not invested?
That is cash that is that cash that is not invested. It's in our bank account. It goes up and down on a daily basis, and that is pretty much the cushion we need on a daily basis, because every time we do payroll, it's around $5 to $6 million. So we need that cushion to pay our obligations on a daily basis.
I see.
So it's basically the cash that we have in our bank account. And it, like I said, it changes. It can go anywhere from 9 to 15 to 20 and go back down to 9, 5. So it depends on what day we're looking at it.
And I'm looking at Exhibit D, and these numbers are very impressive. Mm-hmm. Is this you or is this the market? What's going on?
Well, it's partly me. It's like I said, it's partly me and partly you, actually, your sound policy that I am following. It's the policy that you have voted for and you have approved that I'm following. It is partly the increase in the portfolio value itself from 372 to 583. It's also partly the yields that we have increased almost 85% from 70 basis points to 130 basis points. So even if the portfolio had remained, like I said, at $373 million, we would still be earning $2 million more than what we were in 2013.
Wow. Okay. Very impressive.
Quick question on that.
Sure. Mr. Griffin.
So until 2013, we didn't have any AAA papers?
If we did, we had very few. And the chart indicates that they were very, very little or none at all, yes.
Okay, and going back to Exhibit D, I think everybody would want to invest with you, because from 372 million to 583 million, how did we achieve this? This is tremendous.
That is partly actually credit to you. The way you're running the city, the way the sales taxes are coming in, the way the property taxes are coming in, and some of the money that we're getting from, of course, our legal team and our staff, the money that we're getting from the issues that we're having with the state in terms of redevelopment money that is coming back to the city, that is partly the staff's work as well. So I think it's a collective effort in terms of the increase in the city funds. And the yields, of course, is buying at the right time, the right investments at the right time at the right yields.
I know that you keep saying it's us and it's the yields, but our involvement, we may give some general direction, but our involvement with this is minimal compared to yours, and the yields are buying, the timings, all you. So I want to compliment you on an excellent job. We're looking at solid numbers, and boy, the people who voted for you to be the treasurer for the city of Glendale should be very proud.
Thank you.
And they made the right choice despite all the obstacles that were thrown your way, all the obstacles you had to overcome. Kudos to you. I'm very, very proud to have you as our treasurer.
Thank you. And I have a great support staff as well. Our staff is excellent, and I'm pleased to work with them.
I second my colleagues' comments.
I have one
card.
It's
tremendous.
Are you ready? Mike Mohill.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I think Mr. Manoukian is being too humble.
Indeed.
I remember our previous treasurer didn't do as well a job as Mr. Manukian here. Perhaps he ought to apply for a job with CalPERS. Because, you know, they're not making any money for the last couple of years in their investments. I think they'd give you a pay raise, if anything, Mr. Manukian. Of course, you know, with staying with the city of Glendale, you have a guarantee, you know, pension for life. But besides that, it is nice to see a city official doing a good job.
Amen.
And with that, my hat is off.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mulhill.
you.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the resolution, adopt the resolution?
I'll move the item.
Roll call?
Hold on. Artie, did you read A and B together the record?
I did read them both into the record.
Okay, so it's 8A1 resolution and 8B1 the motion.
I'll move both.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian, Sinanian,
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item.
Thank you, Council.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Director of Public Works and Fire Chief regarding contractual maintenance of Pierce Fire apparatus. C1 is a resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing an amendment to the contract for the provision of parts and services for the maintenance of city-owned Pierce Fire apparatus with South Coast Emergency Vehicle Service contract number 700004702 to include on-site labor and driving licenses, increase the contract amount to $1,125,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $1,925,000, extend the contract duration by 3 years to February 28, 2021, and authorize the purchasing manager to execute the related contract amendment. C2 is a resolution appropriating funds from net position fleet management fund account to vehicle maintenance fleet management fund and fire garage account.
Thank you. Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, ma'am. We'll bring up Chief Fish to talk about this and the next item, but I don't think we should do them together, but they are related as they pertain to the reinvestment in apparatus there at the fire department. Chief?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, we face disasters from time to time in the city of Glendale. The last legitimate disaster, brush fire, was in 2014. So as a result, what happens is we call back our firefighters to staff reserve apparatus. And to keep those apparatus available and in the city is an important priority of mine. So to do that, we're going to ask that we're going to respectfully ask that South Coast Emergency Vehicle Service be allowed to come to the city of Glendale and service our apparatus, the city-owned apparatus, on our site, in our fire garage. And what that's going to do is it's going to shave the amount of time that it takes to maintain our apparatus, because it's just like if you were taking your car to a dealer, you have to drive your car to the dealer. Well, we have to drive our vehicles to Ontario, which is about 45 miles away. That takes a person to drive the apparatus, or if it's a truck, that's 2 people to drive the apparatus, and then someone to drive them back. And you know how things are in Southern California with traffic. That's almost a day lost, a complete day lost in driving back and forth. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to streamline how we do our servicing of our apparatus by allowing South Coast to do a lot of the warranty work and repair work in our own garage, which will shorten the amount of time that these apparatus are out of service, and it also gives us that advantage of keeping the apparatus in the city should a disaster occur and we need to staff back.
You done a cost analysis of this, whether it's better to have this contract than to take the fire trucks?
Well, currently we are taking our fire apparatus to South Coast, so it's a matter of saving not only time, but time is money, right? When you're talking about city employee hours being spent driving the apparatus to the dealership to get serviced. They'll come to our facility, use our facility as the place where they do the maintenance on our fire apparatus. So yeah, I mean, the cost analysis is that we will be saving money.
Well, but also that the Pierce vehicles, the Pierce apparatus that we have has one authorized service provider.
Correct. Yes, there is no other service provider.
Read my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll see that in the next item.
It kind of segues into the next item, but what it is there's only one on the West Coast, and that's in Ontario. And it's 45 miles away. It's within 50 miles, which is a stipulation that we like to have. And so to do that, we like to keep our apparatus in the city as much as possible. So when they do warranty work, it would require that we transport. So if something breaks on the apparatus during the warranty period, that would require that we take that apparatus out to South Coast in Ontario, which again is it's a cumbersome process that doesn't have to be cumbersome, and it can be a lot more streamlined.
So currently we drive our trucks to Ontario?
Correct.
To get it serviced. And what is our cost today when we do that? I mean, what's the cost difference if they come to Glendale and maintain do the service here versus us driving? I know driving these fire trucks back and forth to Ontario it's a plus the employee time and everything else, but what is our current cost, annual current cost when we drive our trucks for maintenance to Ontario versus if they come to Glendale?
I'm going to defer that to Galanian for the numbers.
If I can ask, and maybe understanding this wrong, I thought the existing contract is the cost. What we're doing is we're allocating another $1,925,000 as the additional cost of driving it, of having them come over as opposed to us driving the cars.
Thank you, Councilmember Sinanian responded to that question. So currently we have $200,000 a year annually allocated for this contract.
200,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Annually for 5 years. Back in 2013, City Council awarded a contract to South Coast. So that pretty much takes care of stuff we need for that given year, right? But as Chief mentioned, the downtime is a huge issue for us. So we are requesting an additional $75,000 a year for the South Coast crews to come to our city as opposed to us driving the apparatus, the trucks, with two mechanics to Ontario. So the cost will go up by another $75,000 essentially.
But that's the differential between us going there and them coming here.
And,
so
and
the idea.
I'm sorry, not everything can be done on site here. So there are certain repairs that will have to be done in Ontario.
So it's $75,000 a year for 3 years? Is that what it is?
$75,000 a year for an additional 3 years until the contract elapses, and then we'll come back.
So the current cost is, the contract amount is $1,125,000. That's our cost currently, right? Is that what you're telling me?
For 5 years.
Okay. So it's going to be increased to $1,925,000. The difference is not $75,000 a year. It's about
It's the $275,000. You have $200,000 a year that we spend today, right? And then we're going to increase that by another $75,000 to have them come out and do that work.
Plus for the outer years, the cost of material, equipment, and labor has gone up, so they had requested another $50,000.
So they're holding it for a period of time. If on the fiscal impact part of the report, you see the $275, and then it kicks up to $325. That's the increase in the cost of doing business.
Labor and equipment.
That's right.
So what is this $1,925,000? Is this for another 3 years?
That's the outside
These numbers don't add up, to be honest with you. Or my math is off. Because it's 5 years, $200,000 is $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. So if you add $75,000 for another 3 years, it's $215,000 a year extra for 3 years extra.
Councilmember Garpetian, that 5-year contract, as it stands, expires in 17-18.
Expires in 17-18. Because I was told that our cost per year is $1,125,000. Am I correct?
Our cost per year is $200,000.
$200,000, okay. And you're adding $75,000. So where does a $1,925,000 come to play?
So for the next 3 years addition, past the expiration date of 17-18, right? So the cost per year, annual cost, will go up to $250 versus the $200 that were initially awarded.
So 3 times $250 is $750,000.
plus another $75,000 per year for on-site labor cost.
Okay, that's about $950,000.
And we have 2 years left.
That's another $400,000, so it's 1.3. I don't know where is that $1,925,000 come to play.
1.125.
Okay, what is this not to exceed $1,925,000?
That's the total contract. We have 2 years left, right? So we're adding. The existing contract is not to exceed. With the addition, it'll still be not to exceed. So in the legal world, we have to amend that not to exceed amount. So it's what's left in the contract plus what we're adding to the contract.
Okay. What's left in the contract is $200,000 a year. That's $400,000. Am I correct? 2 years left. And we're adding another 3 years, which is $250,000 a year.
Plus the $75,000 a year for additional labor for 5 years.
Okay, I don't want to go back and forth on this. I think the math is up, but maybe I'm wrong. But we'll look into it because not to exceed $1,925,000 that's the maximum amount for another 5 years.
No, that's the maximum for the whole contract. That's for the whole contract from the beginning when it first started till with the amendments until it's over. So it's not you're not improving 1.9 tonight. You're not approving just what's left in the contract plus an additional amount that it gets to 1.9. It's
okay. Tell me what is the amount that we are approving tonight?
It's in the
$1,125,000?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, because that $1,925,000 is throwing me off. So, anyways, and also in this $1,125,000 is our cost of basically employees going back and forth into that was calculated into that amount, or it was something separate? The $200,000 a year. Do we consider our cost of employees that they drop the truck over there and bring it back, or not?
Councilmember Garpetian, no. The $200,000 a year was the cost of doing business with South Coast.
Okay, so by adding that $75,000, we may even reimburse more to ourselves by saving on employees.
That's correct,
okay.
Councilman.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Sorry for going back and forth too much, but I wanted to understand it.
It's important.
How many trips do you make a month then?
Well, that would be something that the garage could be able to speak to. But I'll say this: we do a lot of repairs at South Coast that can be done in our own shop, and so that'll it's just more efficient practice to keep apparatus in our city, so that at 2 o'clock in the morning, if a big disaster occurs, the firefighters can come back, we can put those things back in service relatively quick, and we can respond to the disaster.
So you usually go out there and leave and stay
Yeah,
there?
we leave them in the garage. They work on them out there for weeks on end.
Firemen stay out? Oh, no.
No, they don't stay with them.
Okay,
Yeah, they drop them off, and then they get the work done on them, and then they go back out later, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and pick them up and bring them back.
It takes that long.
It takes that long,
How
yes.
often does this happen for every?
It happens pretty frequently, yeah.
And there's got to be wear and tear going back.
Absolutely, wear and tear, and you know as well as I do, driving in Southern California, 45 miles to Ontario,
that could be
especially that could be hours and hours, right?
Take forever.
But the issue that you're dealing with now is the number of calls that fire is going on in the course of a given year. The stop and start in Glendale traffic, as opposed to jumping on the 10 and shooting straight out. It's the wear and tear on our local street driving that is causing the type of impact on the maintenance. So at some point, there's a cost-benefit analysis of us saying, do we bring in another apparatus and lower the overall cost per vehicle, or lower the overall calls per apparatus, and that you get to an equilibrium on cost.
Well, I think this is the kind of. This requires the kind of knowledge, know-how, and expertise that only the fire department would have. If our fire department tells us that it's much more cost-efficient in terms of saving time, having the technology available when they need it, and it's worth more than whatever it is additional funds that we're approving, $1.125 million. I'm happy to move the item.
Move the item. Yeah. Can we do? Can he move 1 and 2?
And by the way, since I think the statistics that we were presented recently is that the calls, the requiring emergency services going out have skyrocketed. skyrocketed, especially related to health issues, and that's with Affordable Care Act and all that. So we know there's an increased need and requirement for the fire engines to be out there. So
The item. Okay.
Move the item.
Can we take both?
Yeah, C1 and C2.
C1
and C2.
Second. Thank you.
And roll call, please.
Council members Friedman.
Yes.
Garpetian.
Yes.
Najarian. Sinanian.
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item.
Madam Mayor, D is Fire Chief regarding replacement of 2 existing fire engines, triple combination pumpers, and request to dispense with competitive bidding and authorize the purchase of approved fire apparatus and services from Pierce Manufacturing, Inc. on a sole source basis. D1 is a resolution to dispense with competitive bidding and authorize the purchase of 2 fire engines from Pierce Manufacturing, Inc.
So one of the reasons why we're looking at South Coast is because we run Pierce apparatus. And so Chief Fish will tell you a little bit about why we run Pierce apparatus.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, again, what we're talking about here is providing outstanding service as it relates to, disaster management and public safety in the City of Glendale. We believe that we've hired the best people we can hire. You have the best people possible on your fire department, and we want to outfit them with the best possible apparatus, the most reliable apparatus, the most technologically advanced, and the safest. And so that's where we're at today. When we ask for a sole source on Pierce Manufacturing, it is for a reason. And I can give you 3 of them right now. Number 1, superior quality. When you look at the quality of a Pierce fire engine compared to a Seagraves, an E1, a KME, and Ferrara, and the other lower-end apparatus, pound for pound, apples to apples, you can't compare because there's no comparison. They are truly the best. The quality is the best. The workmanship that goes into these vehicles is the best. They run out of Appleton, Wisconsin. We send our people back there, and we get exactly what we ask for. Safe vehicles that are very reliable and that provide us with what we're looking for. Number 2, the personnel that drive these apparatus and operate them on incidents are used to Pierce apparatus. It's no different than you would be used to your own personal vehicle. You know how to operate them better. There's not idiosyncrasies from different manufacturers. In addition to that, you also have the maintenance personnel, the people at the fire garage. They also understand how to maintain these apparatus. They're trained on how to use the techniques and the tools that they have in the shop to maintain a Pierce apparatus. And third, and probably the most important to me, is customer service. The customer service that we get from South Coast is truly remarkable. We don't get that, you wouldn't get that any other way because there's no other fire garage that we could use as our base within 50 miles. So South Coast is, we just talked about, is 45 miles away, and that's a huge thing for us so that we don't have to drive to Central California or even out of the state to get our apparatus serviced. So those are basically the reasons why we're asking for a sole source on Pierce. We go to trade shows and we look at the different apparatus, and there's just no comparison. There just is no comparison. We want high quality, reliable, and safe apparatus for our people, and that's why we're asking for Pierce.
And you're retiring two fire.
We're retiring two Pierce fire engines from 1995, which have over 100,000 miles and countless hours of operation on those pumps. So that should tell you how, it's Toyota and Honda have that total quality management. Pierce has the same thing. It's very high quality operation. When the apparatus leave the factory and they get into our fire stations, you know you have a very reliable, safe piece of fire apparatus.
Chief, how long have we been using Pierce apparatus?
We have purchased Pierce on and off since 1987 when we bought the first Arrows. That's the year I came on, I know, because I was a brand new firefighter and I got to sit on the brand new Arrow. In 1990, we stopped purchasing Seagraves. That's the last of the Seagraves that we purchased, and in 1995 we purchased 3 new triple combination pumpers, and those were all Pierce, and from that day forward they've all been Pierce.
So our maintenance people must only know Pierce apparatus.
They know only Pierce, yes. Yeah, that's correct. Again, another reason why it's so important to have Pierce.
Okay, any other comments?
No, I'll move the item.
Seconded.
Roll call, please.
Council members Friedman.
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian? Sinanian?
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
Chief.
Next item, please.
E is Interim Director of Community Services and Parks regarding the Maple Park All-Inclusive Playground. E1 is a motion approving a grant and license agreement with Shane's Inspiration in an amount of $15,000 to design, outreach, and consulting services for a Maple Park All-Inclusive Playground project, and authorizing City Manager or his designee to execute the agreement.
Okay, Mr. Ochoa.
This is something near and dear to council. It came up as part of the Development Impact Fee Strategic Plan and had a number of items that council saw as important projects, and this all-inclusive universally accessible playground was one of those projects, one of two. One being proposed here tonight by way of the agreement that Onik was going to talk about, and then later we'll bring back another for Verdugo Park. Onik?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Devine, members of the council. As Mr. Ochoa mentioned, that in late 2015, park staff was directed to develop a DIF strategic plan to use $16 million in DIF revenues. And on March 29th of this year, council approved the DIF strategic plan, which included 2 all-inclusive playgrounds to be built in the city. So council, during the meetings, council suggested to working with Shane's Inspiration. We allocated $825,000 for the Maple Park Universal Accessible Playground, and also $825,000 for the Verdugo. Tonight we'll be bringing the Maple Park concept to council. Universally accessible playgrounds allow children of all abilities to play together. These playgrounds are intergenerational. We can have parents, grandparents play with their children and grandchildren during open play or whenever the playground is available. The playgrounds also offer safe, state-of-the-art, sensory-rich environment for healing of children with developmental disabilities. And children also learn to communicate, be compassionate, and trust one another. The site plan for Maple Park, we'll be using the existing playground area, which is at the southeast corner of the park. We'll basically take out the current playground, which was built in 1996, so it's over 20 years old, and install the new playground area. The current area is 5,000 square feet. We'll expand the play area to about over 8,100 square feet, and an additional 940 square feet north of the walkway area. So we'll have a total of 9,500 square foot of playground space. So history of Shane's Inspiration. The first universally accessible playground in California was built in 2000 at Griffith Park. There's currently 56 inclusive playgrounds, 75 in development. And Shane's Inspiration provides education and outreach programs and have served 35,000 children, over 150 schools. And they're committed to creation of inclusive, sensory-rich, developmentally appropriate, fun-safe, and challenging play environment for children of all abilities. The services that Shane's Inspiration will offer in this agreement is community outreach. We'll have a community meeting, hopefully in the month of October, early October. Fundraising, conceptual design through development. They'll work with our landscape architect on construction documents, and assistance with manufacturers, contractors, and also assist staff in grand opening of the event. And also they'll assist recreation staff in programming. There are 2 pictures of Shane's Inspiration playgrounds. This is the one at Griffith Park, and there's one at Calabasas at Gates Canyons Park called Brandon's Village. Brandon's Village is the one I frequently visit with my children. It's a great playground, and they do have programming for children of all abilities. So CSP staff will continue to work with community organizations, and we'll have monthly gatherings like they do at Gates Canyon Park. They have a program called Brandon's Buddies. They meet once a month, the first Saturday of each month, and basically they'll play. Children of all abilities will come out and play and enjoy an afternoon at the park. And we'll have a nonprofit organization donate a few $100s to purchase arts and crafts. We'll have a bouncer out there so the kids can enjoy the playground and the program. The programs will allow children with and without disabilities a chance to socialize amongst each other and become aware and compassionate towards children with disabilities. We'll also work with local schools, public schools and private schools, and schedule field trips for the kids to come out and enjoy the facility. The projected schedule, our community meeting will be held October 2016. We will market the meeting to neighbors and educators in Glendale Unified, and also public school, local schools, private schools and preschools. Planning and design will start in November 2016, with construction April 2017, with a project completion date of July 2017. That's our hope. It all depends on what elements the community wants, and it also depends on how long the manufacturer will make the playground. That takes between 3 to 4 months. So we're on a tight schedule, but our hope is July of 2017. So we're here today asking Council to approve a grant and license agreement with Shane's Inspiration in the amount of $15,000 for design, outreach, and consulting services. If you have any questions, I'm here to ask questions. And I have Mr. Brad Thornton, who's the Director of Project Development for Shane's Inspiration, here to answer any questions on the Shane's Inspiration side.
Councilmember Friedman?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mayor Devine for bringing this project into the city. She really spearheaded this and kind of went out, and it was her vision. And it's going to be such a great, great amenity in our park and a wonderful addition to our community. And I can't wait to see it open. So,
thank you.
Your microphone.
I would also like to commend you, Mayor Devine, for spearheading this effort. I also want to commend Nora Yakubian, who lobbied this issue very hard with, I think, all of us. And she's overseas. She's in Armenia or in Artsakh somewhere. But anyway, she'll be very happy to know that it's in front of us, and I hope that we approve it today.
Garpetian?
Yes, this $15,000, is this part of our overall budget of $825,000?
Yes, Councilmember Garpetian, that's overall. So $825,000, including the $15,000. And they'll provide us with about 30 to 40% of the conceptual design of the project. They'll work with our landscape architect that we'll hire, and they'll also work with a playground manufacturer, and they'll help us out with programming and outreach. Back in June, I went to Griffith Park. There was a event where Shane's Inspiration sponsored, and Kids Disney came out and had great activities for the kids. So my recreation is coming in now, so I'm hoping to have this type of programming at the facility once a month, work with our therapeutic recreation section, and trying to get these programs in, work with the nonprofits, work with Shane's Inspiration and so on, trying to get activate the playground.
Yeah.
I think it's a well-worded program, and I want to thank you, Madam Mayor, as well, for bringing this great idea. And before we take a vote, I have a question regarding something else.
Okay.
Sorry,
I just wanted to say that I'm just really thrilled that there's a possibility that we can get this special park in Glendale, and maybe even 2 of them. The important thing that everyone has to remember is this is not only for the disabled, but it's for all children, so that they can learn to play together, learn to accept each other, and just make better kids. I know you had an experience at Brandon's Village. I don't want to speak for you, but it has shown that this type of a park works. And I'm really proud. I'm just so proud that Glendale we will be doing this. So thank you.
Thank you. We're excited.
Sure. I have, if there aren't any other comments, I have one.
You know what, I sort of always neglect thanking staff and the department, acting department head, so I want to do that now. Thank you, Onik and the staff for putting this together, and we expect nothing but the best results from you.
Thank you.
Well, I know Onik's really excited about this too.
Yeah, I've been a part of a few Shane's Inspiration projects when I was with City of LA, so pretty excited to have one in Glendale.
Very nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
that's for 8G. It's not for this item.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So if there aren't any other comments?
I know what he's going to ask.
I have a
Oh,
question,
go
but
ahead.
do we have to take a vote first or ask a question later?
It's not.
If it's just a question, I think you just
I
ask.
think
it.
it's related to I think we just have to take the vote. I move the item. Take a vote, then I'll ask the question.
Roll call?
Council members: Friedman.
Yes.
Garpetian.
Yes.
Najarian. Sinanian.
Yes.
Mayor Devine.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that question
Is
for me?
the question?
I don't know. Maybe
I'll be
going back to Maple Park. I'm just going to bring up that shade structure issue, and this has been going back and forth on the design build, and now it's part of Public Works, and I just hope that this would get resolved. And I want to ask our city manager too, because I don't have an answer for our community members who ask me that question. When is it going to be done? When is it going to be done? It's a $170,000 project, and it's way overdue, past due, overdue, and they've been asking for it for the last 25 years. We remodeled the park twice, and this was not done. So I want to ask our city manager to please let the community members know when this will be done.
And I'll just, if I may add just a little bit, when we did the ribbon cutting for the latest unveiling of Maple Park, if you all remember, that's when, for the first time, I raised the issue with staff, and I said, wait a second, we have these nice seats, but everyone's complaining. All these people are here to celebrate, and they're saying, we're gonna bake under this sun. So it's been a long time.
It has, and I apologize for that. Unfortunately, we had tried to do this under the auspices of a design-build project. Ultimately, that was not the right vehicle, and so what we're doing is a bit of a hybrid, not to lose any of the work that had been done in developing the spec for the shade structure itself. We'll take that to the manufacturer, have them sole source that structure, bid out the labor as a typical public works project at this point. It's the most direct, conventional, traditional way forward in terms of just getting progress and generating some momentum. So at this point, Rubik is signing in blood that it will be in February of 2017. And he's betting Matt's paycheck that it'll be 2017. I know, well, you're sitting there, Matt, so I'm sorry. If it was Zern, I'd be hitting him. So, but we will have that done. The bid for the labor will come back to you this fall. And then, as you point out, it's a rather straightforward project. We had hoped to go quickly, and oftentimes fast becomes slow when it's not the right tool. And so design build wasn't the right tool. My apologies to you. We'll do it as a more conventional, albeit somewhat hybrid, public works project, and it will get done. You have blessed the design. The staff in Public Works and Parks has made the embellishments in terms of that design, trying to dress it up a bit based on council comments, and that spec is being finished. We will procure the structure and then construct it early next year, February of 2017.
Can I have a copy of this?
Yes.
Just this year.
Council.
And under penalty of...
Councilmember Garpetian, just to add what to Mr. Ochoa mentioned, we will bring an item to City Council on October 4th to issue a purchase order for the installation work.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next item, Mr. Kasakian.
Madam Mayor, F is Director of Public Works regarding Andover Security Automation System for the Glendale Police Building. F1 is resolution dispensing with competitive bidding and authorizing city manager to execute an amendment to the existing contract with Schneider Electric Building Americas, Inc. to install an Andover building automation system in the Glendale Police Building, provide as-needed support and maintenance, and increase the contract by $265,000.
Somewhat analogous to the fire apparatus maintenance item here is an item where we have a contractor currently that handles the security doors with the fobs at all of our different locations. The police station, police headquarters building across the street, the security doors are in need of repair, upgrade, replacement. We have Andover, which is the current provider. When they discovered from Mr. Golani and staff that we were going to put together a bid spec, they asked, since we're here now, can we sole source this with you? And through negotiations, the public works staff extracted concessions on labor and cost. That is reflected in your pricing here. So the bid cost for the actual work, the one-time cost is $175,000. The annual increase in the contract that was referenced is $30,000 on top of what we already do now. So if you have any specific questions, I'm sure either Rubik or Kevin Todd can address those. But it's the same kind of deal where it's a not to exceed number. We don't necessarily spend all that money, but that's the maximum outside number that we would have for this this investment.
How many doors are we talking about?
Madam Mayor, there are about 100 existing doors, yeah, but the police department has expressed desire to add to those doors, so there'll be new ones.
And it's worth noting, in a secure environment, you're putting more compartmentalized areas, and so that's part of the ongoing function there.
Question?
No, I'll move the item.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Jorian, Hananian, Mayor Devine.
Yes. Next item?
Next item at AG is Director of Human Resources regarding amendment to contract with CalPERS for local miscellaneous members represented by the Glendale City Employees Association to apply provisions of Section 20516, employee sharing additional cost to applicable members. 2-1 resolution of intention to approve an amendment to contract between the Board of Administration CalPERS and the Glendale City Council. 2 is an ordinance for introduction authorizing amendments to the contract between the Glendale City Council and the Board of Administration CalPERS.
Yes, ma'am. As you are well aware, Glendale was one of the first cities for quite a long time to have its employees pay the full employee share of the PERS cost. Sounds like it should be unremarkable, but indeed it was unique for Glendale among cities in California. As the recession wore on, you negotiated, previous councils negotiated with our employee groups who have been great partners with us to dial up the cost sharing, meaning that they would actually pay a portion, not only just the employee portion, they would pay an increased amount of the employer portion. GCEA, as well as all of our other bargaining groups, participated in that cost sharing as you dialed it up through recessionary times. What we have here tonight is a request from GCA, and it requires, this is rather a detail item, but the reason why it is non-consent is because it's an ordinance, and the ordinance is required to amend the contract with PERS to the benefit of the folks in GCEA who are requesting that our contract, this change in the increased amount in the employee paid cost sharing be codified in our contract so they get full value of the cost sharing. The full 4%. You recall that it used to be 3%. You negotiated with them, and in exchange for an increase, they agreed to give back a portion of that increase for the benefit of the city. At this point, I can tell you that across all of our employees, the city saves about $5.5 million a year vis-a-vis employee cost sharing. So what you have here is a rather nuanced ordinance that amends the agreement with CalPERS that allows those employees in GCA to realize the full benefit of the 4% cost sharing on their member statement. And you would ask, well, why? In the very rare instance that an employee would go through some catastrophic loss and want to withdraw from CalPERS and suffer the heavy penalty for doing so, they would get the full benefit of those dollars which they paid towards the city's, the employer's cost, as opposed to not being able to realize that. It's money that the employee is paying for the employer. They're merely asking that the contract reflects that. So God forbid if they ever had to withdraw, they would get full credit for that, tax and penalties notwithstanding. But that's basically what this is. Mr. Doyle knows all of the nuances. He's negotiated the discussion with GCEA, but that's basically it.
Questions? I have one card.
Let's hear from the public.
Mike Mohill?
Here.
2 minutes.
Evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. Here we go again. Another Band-Aid fix for a CalPERS Employees Association. We don't need CalPERS. We should put all Glendale city employees, the general on Social Security and 401k plan. What makes them special than the folks who have to pay the bills? And then when their pension system, CalPERS, makes an investment and they lose, as they've been doing for the last couple of years, and we have not been told from this council yet, the new budget, how much you're going to be contributing more to CalPERS for their losses. It's not in the papers yet, is it? We need to get out of this guaranteed 7.5% return on their failed investments. We should go to the county for fire and police and anything else and outsource. CalPERS, the county employees, for example, is self-funded, Mr. Ochoa, not like CalPERS, like you said last time. CalPERS is so big, it's corrupt. They have managers committing suicide and going to prison for fraud. Don't read that with the county. Besides that, for general employees, they should be on Social Security and a 401k plan, just like the folks who have to pay the bills. Average Social Security recipient is about $15,000 a year. General employees get 60% of their last year's salary for life, and they retire at the ripe old age of 50 or 55, or depending on their contract. And Social Security recipients have to work to the age of 65, and some are working to 70 because they cannot afford to retire early, as a Glendale City employee can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Okay. Any discussion on the, we have a resolution and we also have an ordinance.
A quick question. What's the fiscal impact on us?
For the city, nothing. It's a benefit because the employee is paying a portion of our cost.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we take the items together?
The resolution needs to be moved and the ordinance needs to be introduced.
Okay, I'll move the resolution.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Councilmembers Friedman?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian? Sinanian? Mayor Devine?
Yes.
And I'll
then
introduce the ordinance.
Thank you. And we need a second on that?
No.
No.
Just introduction. Okay. Thank you. And next item?
Madam Mayor, the next item is oral communications. There was only one card submitted for this portion. It's Mr. Mohill. As he walks up to the podium, I'll just remind him that discussion is limited time, is not part of this agenda. The speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, and city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Mr. Mohill?
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I came before this council several months ago asking our city manager what high-profile and previous city employee was filing a lawsuit against our city. Our city manager, Ochoa, and all 5 council members did not answer me, and all remained silent. Tonight, I would like to inform the public that former city manager, Jim Starbird, a person who was given accolades, mind you, upon his retirement, has filed a $1 million lawsuit against our Jewel City. Mr. Starbird claims his wheelchair-bound wife hit a broken sidewalk, causing her to fall and die. Staff, having benefited with outrageous salaries and outrageous pension benefits by Mr. Starbird, will tell council to settle with Mr. Starbird rather than fighting him in court. Often concerned citizens like Herbert Milano or Richard Espiritu came before council week after week, asking for an aggressive policy for sidewalk and road repairs. Mr. Espiritu was very passionate on ADI compliances. Council members Najarian and Friedman would often remain silent when these 2 gentlemen came before council with complaints and generally waited for a reply by former city manager Jim Starbird. Mr. Starbird generally stated all was under control, not to worry, and did nothing. It appears that Mr. Starbird was a miser when it came to finding money for sidewalk and road maintenance, but never a problem finding money for his cherished CalPERS union workforce. Mr. Starbird recommended our current city attorney, Mike Garcia, to replace the retiring former city attorney, Scott Howard. One can only surmise Mr. Garcia, to show his appreciation for his job promotion plus his staff, will do a dog and pony show and tell council and the public to approve a generous settlement with the suffering Mr. Starbird. This council at all costs should defend itself against Mr. Starbird's frivolous lawsuit. He had the opportunity to leave a legacy of good sidewalks and good roads for his beloved city, but instead chose otherwise. We are sorry for the loss of Mr. Starbird's wife, a very respected person in our community. Not to defend the lawsuit brought on by Mr. Starbird would be another form of corruption. Should the city settle with Mr. Starbird with a generous package, we will soon see him moving out of the city. It's bad enough that the taxpayers of Glendale are on the hook for his lifetime annual pension of $238,000. Let me repeat myself, $238,000. That's every year for life, and he's a young man. And the folks who have to pay the bills will be responsible for this lawsuit. And they have to live on a small Social Security check to the end of time. The lawsuit brought on by Mr. Starbird is both appalling and unconscionable. The taxpayers, Mr. Starbird is suing the taxpayers of Glendale for his own mistakes as the former city manager. He had plenty of time and opportunity to fix our sidewalks and our roads. Please review the video, council members, of Mr. Milano and Mr. Espiritu coming before council week after week after week. All 5 of our council members will be responsible for any compensation to Mr. Starbird. This would be a waste of taxpayers' time and money. Thank you. Please do the right thing and fight this son of a gun. Thank you.
Mr. Mohill. Next item.
Madam Mayor, that was the only card for oral communication. The next item is new business, if there is any new business.
Yes, there is. Yes. I move that the matter entitled Yeganian versus City of Glendale, Superior Court Case number BC 575801 be compromised and settled for the full and complete sum of $15,000, and the same is hereby approved and accepted, and the Director of Finance is authorized to issue a warrant in said sum for delivery by the City Attorney upon the execution by the plaintiff for release and dismissal with prejudice.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Friedman?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian? Sinanian?
Yes.
Mayor Devine?
Yes. I want to move that the claim for damages at Glendale Lodge be compromised and settled for the full and complete sum of $42,332.62 payable to Glendale Lodge upon the execution of a settlement and release agreement.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmembers Friedman?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian? Sinanian?
Yes.
Mayor Devine?
Yes. Next item.
Madam Mayor, if there are no other items, the only thing remaining is a motion and a second to
I have a
adjourn.
motion for
Move
adjournment.
to adjourn.
Second.
And we are adjourned at 8:05. Thank you. Good night.